showing today. For those of you that I don't know, my name is Evan Orlando, and you're looking at some of my artwork here, as well as behind me and over there. I make what I call painted wood carvings, for lack of a better term, because I kind of came up with this medium myself, and I don't really know what to call it, but that works. So before I get into the demonstration, I just want to tell you a little bit about how I came to this process. And it all started in college. I have a fine arts degree from Portland State University, which I received in 2002. Hi, Rachel. Hi. And I only took one painting class in college, a beginning painting class, and didn't like it very much. So I've recently pretty much taught myself how to paint, but I learned some really important techniques and processes in college that led me to where I am today. And so some of you may know what a woodcut is. Typically, people think of this as a woodcut, being the print made from carved wood block. So this is what I made, and just a few examples of things that I made in a beginning printmaking class when I was in college. And I liked printmaking a lot, but did it for a couple of classes and then, didn't really pick it up after that. But what I noticed after about 10 years of my portfolio from college sitting in this box right there, I pulled things out, and what appealed to me most from out of everything was the actual wood blocks that I used to make these prints. And this one actually goes with this chair here. It was a multicolored process where you would print one thing and then carve another section out and then print a different color. So anyway, it was these little wood blocks that appealed to me, and I thought, how can I make this into art? So I started experimenting, and this is my very first woodcut that I ever made. This is about 3 years ago, and I've only been doing this for about 3 years, but I've put probably about 10 years worth of work into it, because this is kind of all I do. This is another early example, very remedial compared to what I'm doing now, but I had to start somewhere. And I was putting this, what do I call it, an epoxy resin coating on them at first. So I did that for about 6 months and decided that the whole thing I was attracted to was grooves, so I stopped doing that. That's kind of what I started out with. I started adding color really gradually and did a few of these, which are just kind of monochromatic. And I was really scared of painting, so I started really gradually, just adding bits of color. And then now I'm all about the color. So I love that part. It's my favorite part. And what I'm going to do now is just kind of show you how I do this carving process. It's this is a picture of some boots that are. This was a logo idea that I had for my website a few years ago, and I carved about half of it at this point, so you don't have to watch me carve for the next hour. But I'm just going to kind of attack this here, and while I'm doing this, feel free to ask me any questions you have. These are all carving tools of different types, but really I only use one. And I forgot my gloves, so you might see some bloody knuckles, but which is the reason we're not letting you guys try this. We were going to have everyone carve with me if they wanted to, but
I'm just sharpening.
Well,
look at the wheel.
I brought my sharpening system.
Oh, wow.
So this actually did use a little sharpening, so I'll demonstrate that. This is a water-cooled stone sharpening wheel, and this is a stone here, and then leather strops that are for kind of fine tuning. So I am not a schooled sharpener. I've kind of come up with the angle that works for me. It's supposed to be about a 35-degree angle that you can hold your kitchen knives at, but I like things a little sharp, a sharp. Sometimes I make them dull, but I'm getting better. And then the straws are just for really adding that extra sharp edge. And it doesn't take very long, but many times I'll make like 6 trips. I did a pretty good job there, but it's really my success is spotty. So I'll make like 6 trips back and forth to that before I'm pleased with what I did to the neck. And so I always work from photographs. I don't like drawing, so most of the lines that I have here are more than suggestions. There is some element of design that comes into the carving process where I decide that I don't like where I put something, but a lot of it pretty much happens in the drawing phase where, really what I see here is what I want to carve out. So it's pretty simple at this point.
How do you put the image on the book?
I knew someone was going to ask me that, and I really hoped they wouldn't. I'm a little embarrassed about this, but I'm going to tell you. No, it's great. I'm an open book. It's no big deal. I am a pretty avid photographer. Not trained, but I take my camera everywhere I go. So I start with photographs, and once I get one that is worth, I think, taking further, I put it in Photoshop and turn it into a black and white image, and I adjust the contrast and anything that I need to do to get detail for carving, and then I print it out as a poster, and I simply trace it with graphite paper under these huge boards. And like I said, I don't like drawing, and so I avoid it. And it works for me. But I don't know, I had something else to say about that, but did that answer your question, Al? Okay. The only other tool I use really for this carving process is a drill, and I employ the drill, which I will in a second here, when I want really perfectly circular circles, like dots or something. And I'm going to do that for these eyelets that are holding my shoelaces onto this boot. And I know what I can tell you. I carve on masonite, which you probably are all familiar with, whether you know it or not. It has a dimpled back side, and it's real smooth, and this color brown on the front side. And I went through many types of plywood, trying to find the right surface to carve on. And I tried a lot of hardwood plywood, which I liked, but the problem was the wood grain frequently, my knife slips when I use this, but it slips in a more organic way than with plywood, because my knife would get caught in the grain of the wood and just kind of do that, I don't mind that I just did that right there. I did it on purpose, but I'm okay with kind of accidental marks, but the wood grain would create these really straight lines. My knife would get stuck and it would follow. And so I tried a bunch of different things before I came to masonite, and it's really perfect because it's very hard, but it's there's no grain. It's kind of this pulp that's been, laminated or whatever with some type of glue to make this thin board. And then you can see here that I just laminate it to a piece of plywood to make a thicker surface, because by itself, masonite is not, it curves and warps, which we actually have had some trouble with this gallery here, trying figure out the right way to back my work because it will work. But this current method of laminating to thicker plywood seems to work.
What was the white marker?
Yeah, that's a good question. That is basically just, in this case, I think it's oil primer. I was a house painter for about 4.5 years, and so I like to use a lot of house paint in my work. So usually, I think that's on these little tiles here. I just used trim paint from my own house. So anything, I do that because when I put the phase of this that comes next, which I will demonstrate, is I will blacken the grooves that I've carved with black oil paint, and this masonite is real absorbent, and so the part that I'm kind of exposing with this carving will not only hold the paint in the grooves, but it kind of absorbs it. And I use usually kind of a glossy paint on the background so it will resist and I can wipe it off. But I do play around with that a lot too. Sometimes I put colored backgrounds on my pieces, just depending on what I'm going for. And I'm almost done with this.
And if you mind if people kind of see that?
Not at all. I should have said that at the beginning. If anyone would like to, I know it's kind of hard to see when you're sitting down. If anyone would like to stand up, they're more than welcome to do that.
So what's the primer for?
Well, it's if I were to put the black paint on bare masonite,
Yeah.
it would have kind of the background wouldn't shine through as much as I would like it to.
Okay.
So it's just kind of a brown. It's a brown, yeah. And so here comes the drill part, which is kind of fun. I'm just gonna, I want perfectly round holes here, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of this. And sometimes I go real crazy with this and just leave it on and, kind of do that. And it's a great way to make really symmetrical marks. I like experimenting with new techniques, and I'm always looking for new ways to do that. So power tools are the thing to play with. So this is pretty much where I want it. I don't know if I said this, but I think I did, but I only use one of these knives, and there are many that are for carving broader areas out, but I like to just turn this one sideways and kind of dig with it. Mostly because I don't think lazy is the word, but I get too into what I'm doing. I don't have time to switch knives in my mind. So that's one more. That's pretty good there. And now this is where the fun part starts happening. I just take a little sandpaper just to get the high points kind of smoothed down. And then comes the black paint part. I will show you. I'm going to unscrew this from my table. I use brackets and screws to attach this so it doesn't slide around on me. And this is what this looks like at this point. You can, and I mean, you see how long that took me. I only had about half of it done when I came in here, so really the carving process doesn't take all that long, except on the, like the very, very detailed. And I'm a lot more careful with those in particular because there's a really specific kind of lacy quality I'm going for at the bottom. It depends on my subject matter. Sometimes I'm more sketchy with my, and by sketchy I mean as in sketching, not like sketchy, with my technique. But I wanted this to be kind of rough. So that's what it looks like now, and then this is when I start getting excited, this next phase here. This is just black oil house paint. Like I said, I like to use, I love art paint, but sometimes this is better. So, and Jen, this is why we have the paper on the floor. I'm pretty liberal with the application of this because I really want to soak into those grooves. And I paint the whole background because this paint, even though I'm about to wipe it off, it does tint the part that I wipe off, so I make sure that the whole thing is covered. And then I just wipe this off. This is a really messy part. And I'm already, you know, this is probably something I would never use. Like I said, it's a potential logo for my website. I'm not actually liking it too much right now, but that's not a big deal.
And what happened in the gallery?
Oh, okay. Well, my opinion is only one of many. So, okay, and then you can see how that kind of, you know, made the image more visible. So, what I'm going to talk about next is one of my favorite things in the world, and that is color theory. And this has to do where I met Rachel over here. Do you remember this, Rachel?
No, I don't.
This is a great color book. We took this class about 12 years ago, and it's just interesting how I learned some of the things that I learned in my first year in college. Real basic classes have really informed how I work from that point. So one of my favorite things is color theory, and I only know a very small bit about it, but I'm going to share the more pertinent aspects of it with you guys. And you're probably familiar with the color wheel and complementary colors. If you're not, that's fine. I'm going to show you. And if this is redundant, bear with me because it gets more exciting. Oil paint is, from the art store, is a really exciting thing, and I go pretty crazy with the colors that I buy. But what I'm going to demonstrate here is that you really don't have to. And it's, you know, these primary colors, yellow, blue, and red, and white as an addition are kind of all you need to get pretty far. So I'm going to start with these three and then mix what are called secondary colors, these are the primaries, and then tertiary colors. And the important thing with these primaries is that, you know, there are a lot of colors that would be called yellow, a lot that are called blue, etc. But in order to, this is my little color wheel that I'm going to make for you guys here. In order to make this kind of work as it's supposed to, these colors, the yellow, for instance, needs to be pretty darn yellow. Not a green yellow, not a orangey yellow. And this is a pretty good one here. So I'm just going to fill these main areas here with the primary colors. Again, this is a very true red that I'm about to use. not too blue or orange. And to mix, most of you know that from the Glad commercials or whatever they are, yellow, blue, and green. That's pretty much what I'm showing you right now. But there are a lot more exciting things that come after green. Okay, so we have the three primaries. In order to get green, let's do that one first. Yellow and blue. You might think that in order to get a real middle green, meaning not tending towards either yellow or blue, you'd want to mix equal amounts of the colors. So that's actually not the case. Depending on the pigments and whatnot in the paint, see, I added a tiny bit of blue to that, and I'm too dark already. So you just have to experiment, and that's my favorite part of all of this.
Is that phthalo or ultramarine?
It's ultramarine. Marine. Yes, it's ultramarine blue. And so I like this green a lot. It's actually not really what I was going for, but it doesn't matter. So here, and you can see the yellow plus blue equals green here in this triangle. And then I'm going to make a nice orange and a purple, which are it's the secondary colors that is that right? Yeah, secondary. So I'm going to go with purple first because the blue is so dark. I'm just going to use a bit of it with this red, and I think I already went too far. We'll see. I've noticed that with real saturated colors, adding a tiny bit of white can really bring out the luminosity of the color.
Titanium white or like pink white?
I use titanium white, and you probably, Amanda, know more about this than I do, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong about anything. For the purposes of this demo, I'm not going to, at this point, add any white. So I want to keep these pretty saturated. But you're seeing I'm starting to get kind of a purple here. Purplish, brownish, kind of. You know, like I said, there are many varieties of red and blue, and if I were to use slightly different ones, this color would be
So what is that one?
Which one is it? This is cadmium red medium. So here I'm going to put this kind of two red purple color that I made here. And then orange, I know based on the red and the yellow I have here, that will turn out better. I don't use ultramarine blue very much. I don't like it actually, but that is what I have right now. So I'm not as familiar with what happens when you add things to ultramarine blue. I like kind of a greener blue myself.
Like what kind of blue?
Say that again.
Like a cerulean or what do you
No, I don't like cerulean too much either. I use I like phthalo blue a lot, and in general I'm not that big a blue fan. Indigo I think is my favorite. That's what I use the most of. It's a very dark blue. Okay, so this is a good orange that I have here, and that would go here. And here, I'm going to start kind of doing this too. Green goes here also. And it's so not purple, but we're going to pretend that it is. You're getting an idea, I hope, of what I'm going for, but it's a little bit, I could improve this demonstration. Anyway, now I'm going to go on to the tertiary colors. Let's see, yellow needs to go here. Tertiary are what happens when you mix a primary with a secondary. So for instance, I'm going to take this purple that I'm really not happy with and mix it with the red, which is a primary, and I will get kind of a reddish purple, or brown in this case. And then I'm going to mix this primary here, this blue, with the same purple, and we get more of a bluish purple, kind of. Everything kind of turns brown if you know, overdo things, and I'm okay with that. I like to mix complementary colors with each other, just to see what happens. Complementary color would be, I'm going to stop complaining about this purple, but it's really not purple. The purple and the yellow are complementary. Blue and orange, red and green. So let me get these tertiary colors done. Do a little of this. And I'll get an orange, yellow, orange, and then a greenish yellow, which is one of my favorite colors. And I mix a little orange in there because I wanted to, and that's kind of sometimes the way I get some of my most interesting colors is I just don't clean my paintbrushes, and then a little red gets in with the green, and magic happens. Okay. Did I hear a question about to happen? I feel like I interrupted something. Possibly not. Okay, so now this was almost successful, but you get the idea. What I'm going to show you next is something called, what's it called? Simultaneous contrast. That is basically my favorite principle that color theory has to offer. And that has to do with with color relationships, basically. So I have a very medium gray here. It's not a blue gray or a yellow gray, it's just kind of like black and white mixed together. And what I'm going to do with this is show you how this gray takes on a different appearance depending on what's next to it. And this is the principle that I employ most often in my painting, because I know that colors tend to bring out their complementary color in situations like this. So I don't know if that makes sense yet, but we'll make it make sense. I have a little daub of, I'm going to use this pre-mixed orange now because I used all of my orange. What you'll probably, I hope, notice is that when I put this orange color around this gray, the gray takes on a blue tint. And that's because blue and orange are complementary. And you won't quite be able to see it until I get something to compare it to down, which I will do. It's kind of messy. Now I'm going to take the same gray and surround it with blue. And the gray will take on more of a yellowish tint. And tell me if this is working. Is this working?
Yeah.
Are you guys seeing it? Sometimes I get frustrated and I want to just get on, but I'm going to keep going. To me, those don't look like the same gray. This one looks darker than that one. So what you're seeing is that colors change in appearance depending on what's next to them. And let me try one more little blob here.
Is that why a lot of your work has that grayish background? You like to play off of that one?
Not necessarily, because I mean, yes and no. I'm trying to think of which gray background you're talking about.
Like these guys.
Oh no, that is Carol. When I wipe the color off the surface, that's just the primer showing through the black paint. And I just chose to, in these text abstractions I call them, chose to leave some of the black because it sort of spoke to me as like a newspaper effect, or I just like what it looked like, basically. And a lot of, I'm talking Fury right now, but pretty much what I use as my, for my guidelines is just what I think looks best. I don't know a lot of rules because I'm basically a self-taught painter. I hope to learn some of the rules at at some point, but
It
kind
feels
of
like
busy.
you're using them. Like,
I mean, I have, you know, basics, and I know a friend told me recently that if you want to put, say, a shadow on something, you would always put a little bit of the complementary color in that paint. And since I don't even understand it, I'm not going to try to explain it. But again, going back to how these grays, you know, change a little bit in appearance. And now to take this one step further, I'm going to mix a tiny bit of yellow with this gray. And this is the point I'm trying to make here with this color part, is how you can really make colors pop in relation to one another. And I want to make sure that this still looks gray. It's not too yellow. It's taking a little bit of a greenish color. So here I still have a gray. I mean, most people would probably say that's gray. But when I combine it, or surround it, with a little bit of blue, and at this point I'm going to put a tiny, tiny bit of white in this blue so that it's a little bit more, less saturated, which will make it pop a little bit more and really have the appearance of blue rather than, you know, say black or some nondescript dark color. So here I'm going to put that blue, and you can see how the yellow and the blue in relationship to each other kind of, they play off each other. It's more dramatic than, say, this one. And at this point I'm not sure if this is even working. I should practice, but but these are the basics. This is my messy color circle. And the one last thing I'd like to talk about before did I paint on my face?
Yeah.
A little bit? Okay, that's not bad. I'm seeing some out of the corner of my eye. My husband knows what I look like when I paint. It's beyond messy. But the one last thing I'd like to talk about before I turn you guys loose with this stuff, because I'm going to invite you to paint these little wood carvings if you'd like. And if you are not interested in doing that, which I totally understand, I'm happy to paint one for you, or you can just take it home black and white. If you didn't get one, please come when I'm done and grab one. And so the last thing I want to talk about is I have, my subject matter varies widely. But the current series I'm working on, these are the first two of that series, are these two. And they are roller coasters. You're not necessarily supposed to be able to tell that. They're inspired by photographs that I took at night of the lights on running roller coasters. And the reason I chose that subject matter is because I was trying to, I don't usually have art that has a message. You know, I'm really aesthetically oriented and driven, and I believe in art for art's sake, but I wanted to challenge myself to towards a little more depth. And even though you can't see it in this, I'll tell you what it's about. And the roller coaster is a metaphor for my life. Wow, I hope I don't start crying, but I might. The reason I'm at this gallery and what this gallery is all about is very special. It is, everyone who shows here has a mental health diagnosis. And in my case, that's bipolar disorder. It's been the biggest struggle of my life. And I wouldn't be the same person I am today if that hadn't been show my work here, and being at this gallery has just given me a whole new way of looking at myself and my mental health, and it's really empowered me, and I just can't say enough about it. So, metaphor for my life, the roller coaster. That's what it feels like sometimes. That's where it ends. And another thing on that topic is that this is they're more than inspirational words to me, and they actually come from Jen. This is a personal motto of hers, and one that she has attached to this gallery. And so, hope, dream, believe, you can't go wrong with those three, right? So I was gonna make, little abstract wood carvings or whatever, and then Jen suggested this, and I think it's a good thing to send you guys home with, to remember this event by, and, have some fun with if you'd like to paint them. So what I have to offer paint-wise is, and I'm not gonna do an actual painting demonstration unless you want me to, because I don't really know what I'm doing. But that was kind of a joke. I mean, I do know enough. But, like I said, I'll paint these for you, or just let you paint them. And what I have here are some colors that are the really exciting colors that you didn't see me use. And I'm going to put this carbon stuff away. And we have some gloves for people who don't want to look like this. We don't have face masks, so don't get it on your face. I have some little palettes for you to use, and a series of little palette knives if you'd like to mix your own colors. I encourage you to experiment with everything and mix green and red together because exciting stuff happens. What else? You can use, I'm going to clear this table off after everyone has chosen one of these. And this is paint thinner in these containers, which is what is used to thin oil paint. And I think that's kind of all I have. Thank you all for being here. This has been a really exciting opportunity for me, and I love sharing my art. You guys make it possible. So come on up and pick one of these if you haven't, and then we'll paint.
Evan, thank you so much. This has
You're
been
welcome.
such a treat. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
And just as you feel blessed to be here, we feel very blessed to have you as president.
Thank you.